Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am Julianne Mejia from the Holistic Alternative. It is Monday, September 16th, and this is episode 4 of the Holistic Alternative. I'm so excited to be here with you today because we're going to be talking about some really interesting plant-based medicines. And we have a very special guest today. His name is Derek Januszewski. And he is the owner and founder of Pachamama Sanctuary in Maine. Derek, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. So, Derek, you have a very interesting story on plant-based medicine and how it impacted your life, not only personally, but from an entrepreneurial standpoint as well. And we'd love to just dive into your story and how you got started with plant-based medicine.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. So I found ayahuasca after I was losing a battle with addiction. My addiction kind of started with alcohol in my 30s or my late 20s, and eventually I really got kind of caught up with it. I picked up some of the harder stuff, and really sort of my life started to spin out of control. Was losing everything around me. I had a really successful career before that, and that was falling apart. My marriage had already ended, and I was losing a grip on everything that was important to me. And so I started going to AA for a few years, and I couldn't seem to get it. I didn't really understand the program very much, and I didn't understand how going to meetings was going to help me. Little did I know that's not really what the program is. So after a few years of being in and out of those meetings, I ended up seeing a Joe Rogan podcast that would talk about ayahuasca and DMT as solutions. And at this point, I was desperate. I was going to try anything. So I didn't have any money. I went to my mom, and she gave me the money to go to my first ayahuasca retreat, and it was instant. Was instant. I got relief for about 6-7 weeks where I didn't even really consider using anything or drinking anything.
Wow, that's incredible. That's an incredible story. And, you know, a lot of people that start with plant-based medicines come from a similar background. So which sanctuary did you visit on your first journey?
My first one, I went to Soul Quest in Orlando, Florida, and that was my first experience with plant medicines used as medicine.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that was a positive trajectory for your life. So let's talk further on how that kind of pushed you into wanting to help others with plant-based medicines.
Well, as I said, 6-7 weeks I didn't want to use anymore, but all of my addiction came rushing back at me. It's not like this magic juice that I drank and all of a sudden I'm cured. So I went back, and again, I got some relief. When I went back the third time, my mom cut me off. She says, I'm not gonna get you, I'm not gonna keep spending money on this for you if it's not working. And so somebody at the church that was a volunteer said, all right, I'm gonna give you one of my volunteer weekends that I've earned. But, and these are the words that changed my life, you have to dive head first into a new way of life. At the time, I was just saying okay because I needed what I needed. But and that's what addicts do, right? We just say what we need to say to get what we need to get. And when I went there, the medicine was very clear that I needed to start volunteering there. And so I started to volunteer there very soon afterwards. And I had this one experience when I was volunteering that just shifted the whole course.
Wow, that's impactful and that's powerful. And a lot of people don't understand the terminology, when the medicine speaks to me. Can we talk a little bit about, how plant-based medicines can kind of communicate and open those doors for communication?
Mhm. So there's all these terms out there, I think, like clairvoyance, clair sentience, clair. Um, uh, there's all these different, versions, right?
Right.
Um, and one of the things that happens is the medicine speaks through those channels, right? Either we see something or we hear something, or we claircognizance is when we just know something that wasn't there before. That's more how my mind works with the medicine in and out of the medicine. But um, she speaks in a bunch of different ways. She can come to you visually, she can come to you audibly, but you leave the ceremony knowing something that you didn't before you went in. And like I said, they can take very different forms for everybody.
No, that's amazing. And a lot of people are new to plant-based medicines, even though they're the original format. Synthetics came later. So we always talk and laugh about that in that regard. Let's talk about that. Let's break that down even further for people that are unaware but might be interested in the benefits of plant-based medicine.
Uh, what's a medicine or a medication? I mean, the way that I look at it, it's something to relieve symptoms, right? Now, medications, in my view, that we get over the counter, they're relieving symptoms by suppressing them. With medicines, uh, like plant medicines and cannabis and whatnot, ayahuasca is one of them, of course, that I believe. It relieves the symptoms by addressing the root cause. So wherever that root cause is, the medicine, the ayahuasca goes there. And so for me, maintenance is not a solution in any way, like whether it be cannabis or antidepressants or pain relievers. Having to do something every single day in a lot of these cases, maintenance is not actually a solution that I believe in. I think that addressing the root cause, healing the root problem is. And so for a plant medicine or a medication to help somebody heal, they're going to have to deal with the root cause. And that's what I think plant medicines do for the people that choose to do the work.
No, that's a great way of putting it. And again, we talk about synthetic pharmaceuticals. It's just putting a band-aid on the symptomology. It's not treating the root cause of the illness. So absolutely, I totally agree with you. There's many things and items tools that we can use to help facilitate that healing process, but you absolutely have to do the work. There is no magic pill.
Absolutely. And here's the thing that a lot of people either don't realize or just don't want to say is that you don't need ayahuasca to heal you. You don't need cannabis to heal you. There's these super highways to get in touch with your own personal inner healing. And they're very well known and well utilized ones like yoga, like meditation, like eating properly. Food is medicine. Water and things that we consume is medicine. Or it can be something that hurts us. It can be poison, right?
Absolutely. So it could be either a detriment or, uh, you know, enhance our lives. So
Mhm,
that's an amazing thing. So
mhm.
let's backtrack a little bit. So you were suffering with your own addiction. You had been through about 3 ceremonies from your mom and helping out and started volunteering at the sanctuary in Florida. And let's talk further about how that kind of set you on your course to creating your own sanctuary.
Sure. So when I was there, I sort of the very first week, I decided that I wanted to do something to take the pressure off of all the people that were doing the things that, in my view, were more important, right?
Yeah.
So the people that were serving the medicine, the people that were running the church, the people that were taking care of the guests directly, there was buckets. Buckets had to be washed no matter what, and nobody liked doing them. And so I found a lot of pleasure in doing them because I got to take the pressure off of all these people that were doing all of these more important things, right? And so I found a lot of joy in that, and I was really, really happy to be supportive. Um, and throughout the time that I was there, my responsibilities, I increased them because the more I could take pressure off of other people, the better I felt. So I started doing all kinds of stuff there. About a year later, after I started volunteering, uh, I fell out of alignment with leadership for a couple of reasons, and I won't get into that. But I still had a ton of friends that were there. I still was connected to a lot of people there. There were just certain specific things that just didn't align with me anymore. I didn't really know what to do with my life, so I went back to normal life. Just doing. At the time, I was driving Uber. I was doing mystery shopping. I really didn't want to go back into the workforce because that no longer aligned with me. So I needed to like take care of myself in the process. And after a while, this opportunity, I didn't see it as an opportunity. I saw it as a chore that I didn't want to do in the beginning, but this thing
Yeah.
crossed my path and somebody was encouraging me to organize for them 1,500 miles away from where I lived. And after telling him no several times, eventually I said yes. And that was up in New Hampshire. And so I agreed to organize one retreat in February of 2019, which was our first retreat. And that was that was the first time that I did anything like this.
So how was your first retreat? How was that process and organizing and was it like an aha moment? Everything kind of clicked and you're like, "Oh my God, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing."
Uh, in retrospect, it was beautiful, but at the time, I thought it was a nightmare. I was
Yeah.
so used to all of the resources and all of the comforts that came at Soul Quest.
Yeah.
And so we had 5 people. At Soul Quest, I was helping like 40, 50 people at a time, 5 people. And we had couch cushions that were wrapped in blankets and pillows, blankets and sheets for people to lay down on and go through ceremony and sleep. I mean, somebody, you know what a papasan chair is? Like one of those round chairs, it's like a pocket. It's sort of
Yes.
like, yeah. So those are a round cushion. We had one of those on the ground for somebody for ceremony and for sleep. It looked like a puppy was like curling up on a on a dog bed. It was, and it was in this dusty dance hall at this arts and wellness center. It was a community living space. We had like 4 cans of Amy's soup for lunch to share between like 9 people with some like apples. It was not to the standard that I felt like would be reasonable. And so afterwards, after the ceremony or after the retreat, it was a 2-day retreat. Uh, the owner of the property and the person that was organizing for, the one that was pouring medicine, came to me and said, "This is great. We got to do it again." And I was like embarrassed with what I did. Um, it was very humble beginnings.
Yeah, no, and that's the way most businesses start out. And we have that small start and it grows. So, obviously you're doing something right. There's a lot of interest. There's a lot of people that you have benefited and helped through your ceremonies. So let's break down what plant-based medicine is. Let's talk about ayahuasca. What is ayahuasca for people that aren't aware of some of these psychedelics?
I have this conversation a lot, and my understanding of what ayahuasca is continues to grow. There's people that have been working with the medicine for thousands of years that tell me that they still don't know how it works. But some of the parts of it that are really important is that it allows us to see through the programming egos and the fear masks and all of these justifications and all of these lies that we tell ourselves. It allows us to see through all of that. And it connects us with our higher self because part of what ayahuasca does is it releases a chemical that's released when a person expires, when a person transitions into the afterlife. And so when that's happening, all of the petty stuff goes away, and our heart opens up so that we can have compassion for other people. Well, this medicine does just that. It does just that. So at the end of the day, people have this big experience where they're experiencing partial, like their mind thinks they're dying, right? And so all of this petty stuff goes away. All the justifications go away. So you're forced to look in the mirror and feel the guilt and the shame and the regret and the pain and the loss and the grief, and look at that, and then go through it, get rid of it, purge it. And then all of the gifts come in, which is compassion. And all of this compassion comes streaming in so that a person can see a more complete view of whatever it is that they're carrying around, this baggage that they have resentment against somebody in their life, right? They
For
get to
sure.
see a more complete version of it so that they can have compassion for the other person. And then instead of having to like forgive the other person, the resentment just evaporates.
So they're able to process something that they've kind of held in resentment or some anger or traumas, and they're able to process them fully so that they're able to move forward. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Awesome. So that's incredible. I mean, that literally is the root cause of a lot of people's mental health issues is not dealing with trauma that's underlying in the surface, right?
Yes. Yeah,
So
when we don't deal with something, it's going to come and get us. Any of these shadows that stay in the shadows, they're going to come out somehow. They're going to come out somehow, whether it be depression, anxiety, maladaptive behaviors, compulsions, or, just it's going to come out somehow. You can't deny them. You have to address them and recognize
no,
them.
and that's awesome. And so you originally started in New Hampshire. Let's go back to your story. Starting in New Hampshire, you started to build upon that area and that spot, and you had some bumps in the road during development. Let's talk a
Mhm.
little bit about developing your company and how it has gotten to this point where you're expanding now, which is exciting.
Yeah. So I've never been a manager of any team. I've never run any kind of business. I don't have those skill sets. On top of that, a lot of this was done on a shoestring. I mean, that first ceremony, I got down to $1 in my bank account, and I didn't even have a return flight back to Florida after the first retreat. Everybody had to show up and pay everything for me to be able to buy a flight to go home.
Wow.
So when you don't have funding and you don't have the skill set or the experience to be able to do like running teams and running a business, well, that leaves that leaves a lot of opportunity for failure, right? So I didn't know how to make long-term contracts with locations. So I had to move a location, and I got into another place. And when I got into this other place, I didn't realize um, I didn't realize and understand how planning boards work, zoning boards work. We ended up having problems with the planning and zoning board, not because um, I maliciously did something wrong, but because I was ignorant to all these facts. And so it ended up causing a lot of problems that I didn't know how to solve. I didn't know have the money to solve them because I try to serve the underserved, so we keep our prices really low. Um, and I was way over my head with managing teams, managing a whole business. That I mean, I had no business running it because I wasn't qualified.
Well, there's a lot of snakes out there too. There's a lot of people that, I'm sure, jumped on the bandwagon. Oh, this guy's new. He's developing his business. And it sounds like that's kind of what happened to you with some bad partnerships. And then dealing with the New Hampshire legalities of living in a state that claims to be, free or die, live free or die. And, they're giving you crap about having a retreat center there.
I don't think that people came here with a carpetbagger mentality. I don't think that people came here and were just, I think that a couple did, but for the most part, people came and started doing the work. And this medicine brings out shadows in people, and if they're not willing to address them, they come out somehow, like we just discussed.
Right.
And so, what that looks like to people is, well, Derek is doing it wrong. I can do it better. Why don't you come with me and we'll start our own thing, right? I don't think that it was maliciously, "Ooh, this guy's starting something. I'm gonna come in here and take what I can get and get out of here." Now, I think that happened a couple times, but for the most part, I mean, these are good people that came to the sanctuary, and then they were
Right.
dealing with something that they didn't know how to deal with. As far as the legalities and all of that in New Hampshire, while everything you said is accurate, when you stay in a town and you're operating a business in a town, there's city ordinances that have been set far before I arrive, and so they have to be followed. And I didn't know how to follow them. I didn't know what the rules were. I had no clue how difficult it is to actually open a business anywhere. Part of my ignorance in running this thing. So a lot of lessons learned. Certainly some snakes in the grass here and there, but for the most part, like I have to take responsibility for all of it because you know I grew way faster than I was capable of operating.
Gotcha. No, and that's great. That's an amazing way to put it. So, you had a rough start. It was very humble beginnings. Let's talk about your permanent home now that you've moved since the New Hampshire location, and you're now in your permanent location in Maine. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. So a really interesting transition that happened, right, was all of that stuff was happening. I was in over my head, and I had a mental breakdown actually that resulted in a relapse of my drug use. And so I
Mhm.
went and so New Hampshire sent me a cease and desist order where I couldn't operate anymore in the location that I was at. Not at all in the state. I could, just not in that at that address.
Gotcha.
So I had to shut that down and I decided to go and get treatment because I'd never actually gotten treatment for my addiction, which is still an underlying thing, right?
For sure.
And in that time, I went to work with some of the gifts that the medicine gave me, which is of extremely strong ability to manifest things. So just to paint the picture, I went into treatment with I was significantly in debt because I had to shut down before a bunch of retreats happened, and I didn't have the money to pay everybody back at the time. Since then, all but two people have been paid back, and I'm working something out with them. It's going to be very very soon. They're going to be paid back. But
Okay.
I was in rehab with a debt of about $150,000 and no idea how I was going to continue on. I thought the company was shot. And so I started working with these manifestation tools that the medicine gave me, and I continued looking for a place. And I didn't know. I thought it was crazy to do it, but I just that's the track that I just kept following with my intuition to look for properties. And I found this property in Maine, and it's way over my head in terms of what I could buy personally. So I continued to do my manifestation work, and we ended up on this gorgeous property. It's on 42 acres. It's got 6,600 feet of frontage on this beautiful river called the Crooked River.
Wow.
The building itself is almost 8,000 square feet. It's designed perfectly for a retreat. It's got lots of bathrooms right on the same level. Nobody has to go up and down stairs. It's got a wide open ceremony room. It's got a whole area for the team to stay. I mean, it is. I couldn't have designed it any better. And so 10 months after my breakdown, we I was able to put everything together where um, we were able to close on this property,
Yep.
and we moved in here in July 31st of 2023, um,
Wow.
with no money, no income, torched credit because I was now 10 months in rehab with I couldn't make payments. I wasn't making any money. I wasn't doing anything. My credit was shot. And so this place was manifested through all the
Well,
skills that the medicine gave me.
that's amazing. And you know what? Your story is such a powerful one of entrepreneurship, that you want to make a difference. And, this is just the universe kind of pushing you to do that. So let's talk about ceremonies and how that works. Walk me through a typical ceremony when people come out and sign up and join up for a ceremony. What are they going to experience? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So people find us online. All of our registration is done online. So once a person registers, then they start to get emails from us. The first email is how to prepare, then another email inviting them to a Zoom so we can meet everybody that's coming to the retreat. Another one, some last minute details. And then they arrive here on Friday before we start with the first opening circle. We do an opening circle where we all introduce each other, and then we start ceremony at 8 o'clock. That's when the shaman, and by the way, all of our ceremonies are led by indigenous shamans that are trained in the jungle and have a teacher and have done this for many years. Okay. We don't deal in any new age shamanism and like all of that kind of stuff. We bring in the experts. So we start our first ceremony at 8 o'clock. And then throughout the weekend, we have a second ceremony on Saturday. We feed everybody all weekend, give them a comfortable place to sleep. And most importantly, the most important thing that I provide is integration help. Integration is basically taking what was received in the medicine, processing it, and then actually doing something with it so that the things in their lives that they came here trying to shift actually shift.
No, that's amazing. So we talked a little bit about what an ego death is. Let's tell listeners a little bit. When you take ayahuasca, sometimes you do go through what is called an ego death, and let's break that down a little bit for people and what to expect from these plant-based medicines. And you drink it, is that correct? You do a drink, like a tea ceremony?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. At our retreats, we have 2 ayahuasca ceremonies where everybody drinks. All of the facilitators, all the guardians, we all drink. Obviously, not full doses. We don't want to have our team incapacitated. They drink a tiny amount, whereas everybody else here as guests, they drink a full dose. So the term ego death is a little violent. I don't exactly align with that term when it comes to being inside the medicine. Um, I like to refer to it in the medicine as an ego dissolution, where the ego dissolves versus dies. We can't kill our ego like that. It's just an experience that we go through where our ego is dissolved and we have a transcendent experience. And that's what people call an ego death, but I don't agree with that vocabulary.
I love
Although I
your
do,
vocabulary. I think
yeah.
that's so much better. I mean, I think a lot of people get, you know, concerned about hearing the word death in anything. So I think that's a way better way to describe it, is a dissolution.
hmm Sure. I do, however, believe that people in their life go through many ego deaths. We have many egos. You're not the same person when you go to the store as you are when you go to work, as you are when you go home, as you are when you're with your mother, as you are with your kids. You have different parts of your personality that sort of take center stage. You're still the same person, but you're not going to talk to a 6-year-old the same way you're going to talk to a 60-year-old. Um, and so an ego, an overall ego, sort of moves along as we age, right? So an adolescent will have the adolescent ego. In order to become a preteen, that adolescent ego has to go away or die off for the new ego to be replaced with it. So then is to go from a preteen to a teenager, or a teenager to a young adult, or a young adult to an adult, a full-blown adult. Um, these are all times where the I, who I am as a high school student, is no longer present. And now I, as a young adult in the workforce, trying to make ends meet and trying to do things for myself and experience things in life, it's a different person. So that is one ego, the ego of the high school student that dies, that has to die off. And that is an ego death. And that's what we're going for when people come here, because they could identify as somebody who is anxious and depressed and has a hard time keeping a relationship or romantic relationship together. And that is an ego that they have built. And we want that to die off in place of a new ego that is somebody who is fulfilled and happy and is good, is knows how to be of good service in a relationship to make it thrive. That's the ego death that we want to talk about.
No, that's a great way to describe it. And I think as we grow as people throughout different points in our life, it doesn't matter what age we are, growth can happen at any age. So I think that's a really great way to explain how integration is with medication, with plant-based medicine. Um, so after the experience, and you talked a little bit about a reintegration, right? And that being your specialty, what do people expect after going through a ceremony and have questions?
Mhm. So, after going through a ceremony, most people have 3 to 4 weeks where they live on a pink cloud. Everything is easy, everything is beautiful, grateful for everything. The small stuff doesn't bother them. They just react to situations that used to cause issues with just fluidly and in ways that they're proud of. All of the parts of the ego that were attached to all of this old stuff is now severed, and so they can actually act from the heart. So integration is a process of like expanding that from 3 weeks to 4 weeks to 5 months to 10 years to the rest of your life. And it takes effort, right? Because I'm 48. If I went to an ayahuasca ceremony for the first time right now, and I tried to like change everything about me, the way that I think, the way that I act, all of these, like all of this trauma that I carry around, to change it in a weekend, that's not reasonable. It's going to take years, 3, 5, 7, 10 years. I'm still digging out from my first experience in 2017 right now. You know, it takes a long time, but the work is apparent. We know, oh, I should meditate so that I don't have a bunch of race brain going on when I'm talking to somebody, that disallows me from being present. And then I understand why I'm disassociating in the middle of a conversation where I don't hear what the last person, what the person just said last.
No, I think that's great, and that's an amazing way to explain it. Because again, a lot of people when they take plant-based medicines, they have a profound experience. They don't know how to process what they've seen and what they felt. So I think having someone to kind of pull those pieces of the layers of the onion back and say, hey, this could actually mean this, and this could mean this. It's nice to have somebody to walk you through kind of what they've experienced and put validity to it. So I think that's a really important piece.
Yeah, that's one of my most important and my favorite roles. Every Tuesday, I have an integration call. It's open to everybody, by the way, whether you've sat with us or not. If you're coming to learn how to be a better person and you want to grow, it's a good place with good people. And I lead that call every Tuesday. I rarely miss one, and if I do, somebody else takes my place. Um, I feel like, after hearing almost 4,000 people go through this process here and what they experienced and how they grew and all of the amazing awakenings that they share on um, on an integration circle on Saturday and Sunday morning, there's so much that I've been able to learn from everybody coming here and sitting with medicine that I find myself in a really unique and wonderful position to be able to support people through the integration process. And that's what I love to do.
I think that's incredible and it's important work because again, there's a lot of people that get thrown on an SSRI or a pharmaceutical and you know they don't do well. I get those calls all the time. Hey, it's not working. They're putting me on more and I'm having all these side effects. I'm not really healing at this point. So you're giving people an option to treat the root cause of their mental illness per se. Would you agree with
hmm
that?
Yes, I'm giving people the opportunity to heal themselves because
Awesome.
I can support you in your healing. I can't heal anybody.
No, of course, everybody has to put the work in. And you know what? So you have come a tremendous, tremendous route. And, there's no shame in what you went through. I mean, again, we're all human. And you had enough weight of the world on your shoulders dealing with all the legality stuff in New Hampshire and stuff. So you've overcome quite a bit to get to this point in Maine where you're now expanding. Let's talk a little bit about your expansion.
Sure. So we just in the course of the way things go, we were provided the opportunity to utilize a space down in Orlando, Florida. And so we're going to test it out. We're going to see if it makes sense for us to continue down there. We have one that's planned for the second weekend in November. And I know the space. I've gone to the space. I've received medicine at the space. It's really a beautiful and sacred land. So we're going to give it a try. And I think it's going to go well. If it does, we're going to move towards doing that once a month there and go slow. Like I did not with this one. The one in Orlando is going to go very slow.
Good,
But
good. So you're
yeah,
going to slowly build. And you know what, Derek? If people want to get involved, they want to help, they want to support, they want to volunteer, if they want a session themselves, how do people reach you and get in contact with you since we're almost coming up to the end of the segment here? I want to make sure people can get in contact with you.
yeah. So the website is a wealth of information about our sanctuary, our statement of beliefs, information about our whole team, all the booking and all that stuff is through there. If you want to talk to somebody, just call me. My number is 603-451-8733. You can just call me. I'll answer. If I don't answer, send me a text because I live in 2024. Voicemails are a lot harder to check than text. You can email me. You can send a carrier pigeon for all I care. If you need help, call me.
Okay.
Reach out.
And can you give everybody the spelling of your website just so they have it and they can reach out directly?
Sure. It's PACHAMAMA sanctuary SANCTUARY.org. ORG.
Okay. And your email one more time?
My email is Derek@pachamamaretreats.org, not at Sanctuary. My email is DEREK@PACHAMAMARETREATS.org, and you'll get me.
Perfect. Derek, is there anything else you'd like to tell people that might be scared about trying some of these plant-based medicines that you guys offer?
Two things. Number one, everybody is scared to take this. I've taken it about 150 times. I'm still scared. If you want to talk about that, call me, but it's part of the process. It's part of the cost. Cost is doing it scared. Okay. And secondly, if you're not called to the medicine, don't do it because your friends are doing it or because some celebrity's doing it or because you're desperate for something. You have to be called to the medicine to get the best results, and that's when it'll really open up for you. So don't skip steps. Just wait for the call if you haven't been called yet.
Thank you so much, Derek. It's an honor and a privilege to have you on the show today. And thank you. Thank you for all you do for the community. And we look forward to hearing more about your journey as it increases and as you expand out.
Thanks so much, Julie. I really appreciate you having me today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Derek. Thank you guys so much for being here today at the Holistic Alternative on Global TV News. And we actually have a beautiful segment again next week. We're doing 2 shows this month. We're going to have Ed Rosenthal on. He is an OG in the cannabis space, and it's going to be a big show. We're going to be discussing the election and how that's going to possibly impact the industry itself. So thank you guys so much for joining in, and have a beautiful rest of the day. Take care.